We've gone a long time without any news for a new Fire Emblem game, so the recent Nintendo Direct brought a lot of hope and hype. To those foolish enough to believe speculation videos, we got Project Triangle Strategy working title instead. Terrible title aside, I actually really enjoyed the demo. Keep in mind this is coming from a Fire Emblem fan rather than a Final Fantasy Tactics or Octopath Traveler fan. While I do have an interest in SRPGs as a whole, I'm very picky with how I spend my time. Why try out something new when I can reach the funny number in Fire Emblem Three Houses? So I am curious what someone with more experience in the genre thinks about this demo. But if you're just a Fire Emblem fan like me, how does it compare? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Of course you can play it for yourself, it's a free demo, but it did take me about 7 hours. However, that's because I was trying to evaluate every nook and cranny of the demo. There's a bit of story before they throw you into the gameplay, but I felt like the best part actually came after the first map, when you use the Scales of Conviction. So you can watch this first if you want, I'll be covering the story stuff last. If you know anything about anything, you already know that Octopath Traveler has some of the best presentation around. The graphics are great, the art is great, the music is great, nothing's changed in that regard. My only complaint is the lack of a colorblind mode. I'm not colorblind myself, but I can easily see all these colors getting mixed up for those who are. I suppose another thing is the maps feeling like only a representation of what they're supposed to be. I know this is par for the course, but the maps don't feel like they're actually part of a world. It's better than being suspended in the void at least, which was part of the reason I was never too interested in other SRPGs. Three Houses may be ugly in some places, but the maps really make you feel like you're Batman. I mean, like you're seeing the world. I feel like this is something few people actually care about, but personally, if you want me to get invested in the story and world, it goes a long way. So the gameplay looked like a lot at first, but it didn't take too long to figure it out. With every SRPG I've tried, I always end up preferring Fire Emblem in the end. It's easy to learn, hard to master, and it's fast-paced with an emphasis on anti-turtling incentives. Most of the time anyway. In comparison, this demo did feel pretty slow, but I didn't have an issue with it. It did feel a bit faster once I had a solid grasp of the mechanics, but the movement for many units still makes advancing happen at a snail's pace sometimes. Again, I don't have an issue with it, but I can see it being a common criticism. There is a sort of anti-turtle incentive in the TP system, encouraging you to deal with enemies before they gain access to powerful moves. Speaking of TP, it was one of the most interesting mechanics in the demo. Sort of like combat arts from recent Fire Emblem games, these abilities make every unit feel unique, unlike anything seen in Fire Emblem. You can affect the map in various ways, inflict buffs and debuffs, and more, only comparable to the kinds of things you see by the mid-game of Three Houses, and no other. The choices you make in the story affect which units join your party, adding even more flexibility just by choosing your team. Managing your TP is crucial, especially with the turn order affected by speed rather than player and enemy phase. While this way of handling movement order is fun, it isn't something I'd want to see in Fire Emblem, and while I enjoy the TP abilities, I feel like it can make Fire Emblem feel bloated. But as it is here, I really enjoy it for what it is. Rapid fire with the rest of my points. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't seem like there was any penalty for dying. I got through both chapters without any deaths, but I was caught slacking when playing the alternate second chapter. I still won, as the defeat condition is losing all of your units, but I feel like that makes the game too easy. I don't want permadeath necessarily, cause I feel like you could get soft-locked, but there should be some kind of reward for each unit kept alive at least, with a bonus if everyone survives. The first map was a bit bland and wide open, but the two others were cool with a lot of interaction and potential solutions. The shop was a shop, but the fire and ice stones were cool items that were fun to use, especially if with certain characters. Exploration was fun, but restricted as you just talk to everyone and click on shiny objects in a small area. Good for character and world building at least. That's about all I have for that. Sometimes I like to think about what kind of SRPG I would make, and there were a lot of similarities, so that's probably another reason why I really enjoyed digging deep into its systems. The story is interesting, at least. The demo does start with a warning that you're getting dropped in the middle of events, but I don't think starting from the beginning would have gotten me more invested in the characters and world. It's sort of generic fantasy political intrigue where more houses apparently equals more epicness, which I feel only works if there's either characters or a deeper meaning to care about. Otherwise, you could just read a history book on the War of Roses or something. But what really turned the tables for me was when the player gets involved. Suddenly, I was a lot more invested in what happens in this world. Paying attention to all the side stories and characters felt rewarding when I had to make a decision affecting many. Basically, you have to make a choice to hand over the prince to the big bad or suffer near certain defeat at their hands. And your choice really does matter, as it changes the entire story and what map comes next. For this decision, I decided to protect the prince, my thought process being that if we survive, we send a message to everyone that resistance is possible. And the reasoning, as well as others' reactions to it, was well thought out. It wasn't just the generic good guy protect friends sort of choice. My thought process was reflected in the dialogue choices, as were other positions, including the example I just gave. And when I tried out the alternate choice, it doesn't try to make you feel like a bad person. There are good arguments to be made for both choices. Voting adds another layer, as you have to take other opinions into consideration, not just force your own onto others. Though you can do that if you want. Though this does tie in with what I said earlier about exploration feeling restricted, as it seems like if you just click on everything, the best persuasion options get unlocked. I feel like it shouldn't reveal what options become unlocked when you gather more information, so it feels like you're actually choosing what you think is best to say. Maybe the best options weren't behind the locks, I don't know. Other than that, I think they should add a log button for the many times I accidentally skip dialogue, and a skip button instead of just fast forwarding. My last point is that the voice acting is only serviceable. Really, I just don't like the main character unless it's revealed earlier on that he's a robot or something. Everyone else is fine. In conclusion, I'm definitely looking forward to this game. I'll be waiting on the user feedback survey, but this still feels like a game I'll be picking up, with the main selling point being the scales of conviction segments. But what do you think? I'd like to know what the consensus on this demo is, especially if you're a Final Fantasy Tactics or SRPG veteran. Comment down below and subscribe for more Minecraft Let's Plays.